Good morning. In this short video, I want to show you a little bit about how to look at an exam that has been given and what are the changes that you can make after an exam is given. When you sign into ExamSoft, as always, you have these little circles and you have these tabs. So in the case of looking at an exam that's been given, you would click on Assessments. And that will bring you to a list of assessments. Now, as always, my ExamSoft page is going to be way busier than yours, and you may only have one or two exams. But the exams are organized in folders by semester. And the exam that I would like to look at is the Fall 1 semester of 2023. So I just click on that. And when I click on that, I get a list only of the exams that have been given in that semester. I'm going to look at the second physiology exam that was given, so Physiology Exam 2. And when I click on that, it brings up a page where I can see a number of things. These are the questions, they're the question titles, which can be useful and is something that we're going to work on later. This is where I can find reports that are very helpful. One of those reports we will typically send you shortly after a test. The didactic department admin or the program admin will send you the summary report. I'm going to show you what the summary report looks like because that's a good place to start in terms of making adjustments. So I'm going to click on summary report and it takes a minute. In order to get the summary report, you have to pick which categories, and the simplest way to do that is simply to use the top 25 because we never have that many categories. And you will get this nice PDF report that looks pretty, and it gives you some things like the range of scores in the test. And because I've already made some adjustments and because there was a bonus question on this test, the high score is over 100, which can happen. But we are typically aiming for a range, ideally, if everybody passes, between 70 and 100, with an average between 85 and 90. And you can see a histogram here. Now, in an ideal world of assessment, you have a full bell curve. I don't have a full bell curve because we have very bright students and we are hoping most of them are achieving well. So we have a kind of a skewed curve here. We have something called the KR20 or the assessment score reliability. As I understand the KR20, it is assessing whether a similar group of students given the same exam would have the same score. And it's based on several things. One of the crucial things is having enough questions, which is why we like to have 50 to 60 questions on exams, probably in the final exam closer to 60. 70 is okay too. We don't need to get too much above that because it doesn't add a lot to the reliability of the exam or the ability to distinguish people's knowledge and competence, and it takes much longer for the students to take, obviously. These are I'm going to skip over this, but the categories that we use include a complexity category with A, B, and C, low, moderate, and high. We rarely use the high category C in these sorts of exams because it implies creating, it goes beyond the sorts of things that we assess during the didactic phase, which typically are remembering, understanding, applying, and analyzing. And then we categorize by the blueprint of the certifying exam for PAs by organ systems and tasks. In a physiology course, that's a little bit higher, and a whole lot of those questions are going to be about applying basic science concepts. In this list, we see the performance of the bottom quartile. It's actually the bottom 27% of students, so you can immediately identify who's in trouble. And then we have our question analysis. So for each question, the system tells you what percentage of students got it right. It tells you the difference between the performance of the upper quartile and the lower quartile. And then it gives you something called a point by serial and a discrimination index. It shows you the frequencies of the responses. So I want to pick an example here. One of the things that I always do is look at the questions that less than, say, 40% of people got right. And here is a question that less than 47% of the people, or less than 40% of the people got right. One of the things that I can see here is that the strong performers on the test got it right a whole lot more often than the weak performers, and that the answer that was selected most often was a wrong answer, and it was answer A. So we are going to come back to this in a minute. This is question 11. So now I have to decide, is the problem here that I asked a bad question? Is the problem here that I read it correctly, or maybe that there are two correct answers? So I want to go look at that question 11. So I come back to this tab, and I go to here, Adjust Scoring. And in Adjust Scoring, I'm going to come down to question 11, and I'm going to hit the little Edit button. The pencil means Edit. And it shows me the question. It says, the patient is a 60-year-old coal miner with a 60-pack-year history of smoking, who's complaining of increased dyspnea and fatigue. This is his flow volume loop. This is a comparison, this is normal, this is patient. So I define it, the bottom loop, the purple inner line. And in this case, I know this is a hard question, so I'm asking them to think hard about it, whether this is obstructive lung disease or restrictive lung disease or something else. I tried to make all my answers plausible. In this case, clearly it is not obstructive lung disease, it's restrictive lung disease. Clearly, the stronger students, it's a decent question because the stronger students, about half of them got it right. But it's a very hard question that maybe I didn't emphasize or teach very well. So my decision here is to change this question. I leave the original answer. I could do a number of things. The original answer, I could give full credit to everybody, and I sometimes do that if I have a question that I don't think was a great question and I need to bring the average up. So it's just sort of a way to sneakily give people a little bit of extra credit. I can throw it away, in which case it doesn't hurt anybody, doesn't help anybody either. But because I know that about half of the really bright kids got it right, or the better prepared kids, I'm going to make it a bonus question. And what that does is that it gives credit, extra credit, above 100, to the people who got it right, but it does not penalize the people who got it wrong. It takes it out of scoring in the bulk of the exam, the 100 percentage points that make up the exam score. So this is going to boost some people up a little bit, but it's the people who did well. Once I've checked that, now if it was unchecked, these are my options. Okay. Other things I could do, suppose I decided there were 2 correct answers. Well, I could say, well, that answer was correct, but this answer is also correct. And then it's going to give credit to the people who answered either way. I could decide that this answer was incorrect and this answer was correct. And I've been known to miskey a question. And then I accept adjusted answer. But instead, I'm going to stick with that, which is the original answer. And I'm going to make it a bonus question. And when I'm done deciding what to do with it, I hit update. And that's the end of that. So let's go back to our exam and find another question. Just so that you know, the ones that are highlighted in yellow are that way because they don't have categories attached to them. And in this test, they are mostly matching questions. Here's another question, question number 42. So only 40% of people got it right, but it has a good point by serial and discrimination index. The best test questions have discrimination indexes above 0.2 to 3. The higher the discrimination index, for instance, this one, the better it discriminates between people who really performed well on the test and people who didn't, so presumably people who knew the material better. On the other hand, if we asked all questions with those high point by serials, they'd all be questions with lower response rates. So we want to be sure in some cases to ask questions that we really do expect everybody to get right. And it's fine to have some questions with 95 or 98 or 100%. But you do want to have some question, and some of those still discriminate. For instance, here's a question that has a 98% correct answer rate, but everybody in the top quartile got it right, and 83% of people in the bottom quartile got it right, and it has a high point by serial. It's not the best discrimination index, though, because to get a higher discrimination index, you have to have a bigger spread. So let's take this question, question 42, and talk about it back here in the tab where we adjust answers. So we're going to scroll down to 42, and we're going to hit the little edit pencil. And it says, using creatinine as a way to estimate glomerular filtration rate is imperfect. What is the problem? And this is something I emphasized in my lecture, that creatinine overestimates the glomerular filtration rate because it is freely filtered, but some is put additionally is taken out of the blood and put into the filtrate after the glomerulus. So it makes it look like your glomerular filtration rate is higher when you use creatinine clearance as your estimate. Since I emphasized it, even though only 40% of people got it right, let's go back here, it was a good discriminator, okay? 55% of the top quartile got it right, and only 33% of the bottom quartile got it right. And I'm perfectly happy leaving that question just as it is. I am not going to throw it out. So if I looked at a question and I determined, as I said, that it was miscoded, that this was the correct answer and this wasn't, I would check that, accept corrected answer, and update. If I determined that both this answer and this answer were correct, I would check them both, accept any adjusted answer, and update. If I decided that it was a good question and I wanted to reward the people who got it right, but not hurt the people who got it wrong, I would make it a bonus question. If I decided that it was a terrible question, I could throw it out, or I could give full credit to all exam takers. And I typically only give full credit to all exam takers if most everybody got it wrong, or something like by chance, 20 to 25% of people got it right. And I don't think it was a good enough question to be worth counting or considering. And I want to raise the average by a little bit, so we give credit. Another thing that you can do to manipulate your final scoring is adjust the weight of questions. If your exam is a good exam with a good KR20, but a low average, and you want to essentially curve the test, you could just add points. But another thing you could do is take some of those questions that everybody got right and weigh them more heavily so that it helps everybody equally. So you would change, say, take this question 29. Which of these is not part of the respiratory zone of the airways and the lungs? And I could change that to have a weight of 3, which, because everybody would get more points, it would bring up the average and everybody's grade a little bit. Rarely do that, but it is something that can be done. And I'm just going to close that and not save it. So basically, after the test, do that, and then you can run another report. Once you've made your adjustments, you can go to the reporting. First, you could do the summary report again and look at the changes. But ultimately, if you want to look at the exam taker results, you come to this page. So, exam taker results. And you enter at least the exam taker name and the percentage score, and you view the report. You could pick other things like the raw score or the percentile or all of that, but you don't need to. And now this report comes in according to the number of the student ID, and you want to sort it alphabetically. And ideally, you sort first name and then last name. That way, if you have 2 people with the same last name, like Elizabeth and Brett, sorting them by first names first makes them come in the correct order in your final test. If you wanted, you can hit this little button and it will download as a Excel. It'll always ask this question, and it's always fine to say yes, and you'll just get this Excel sheet with people's grades on them. At Methodist, if you are a member of the principal faculty, you'll be entering your own grades in Canvas. If you are a member of adjunct faculty, you are welcome to enter your own grades in Canvas or to ask for help from your course director. So for this exam, I think that's all that we want to look at. This summary report, remember, let's go back there. Here's the summary report. Your score reliability, which you want at least above point, say 5.5 or 0.6. Who's struggling in the course, that can give you some information. How students performed on each of the questions, and ultimately make your decisions based on your information, what you know you taught, what you expect from your students, whether you're going to keep that question, make it a bonus question, drop the question, rekey the question, or give everybody credit. So that's it for this video. I hope it was helpful.